Today we're going to review the proper method for installing a new panel, wood panel, onto your STRIEBIG panel saw. So it's really a very straightforward process, especially if the panel that you're taking out is totally garbage and you're just going to throw it away anyway. The taking out part, which is the trickier part, can really be, the process can be cut down considerably. But you'll notice that the parts have different ends depending on where the wood panel goes on your machine. You notice that this panel, for example, has a finished end on it, and that one edge of the panel looks different than the other edge. That's so that you can only put it in one way. So this would definitely be the left end panel on a machine. Whereas this panel has edges that are both the same, top and bottom, and is unfinished on the edge. So it's going to be somewhere in the middle panel. Okay? The part that holds the panel in place is actually this plastic strip that acts on the top of the panel. Here, the bottom of the panel will always sit down on the aluminum profile, and this plastic piece, which is in the aluminum profile above it, acts like a barb and holds the panel in place. So this is the part that we're going to have to work on to get the panel out. Okay. To do that, we use a couple of very simple tools. Just a sturdy flat bar of some sort. I like a relatively small one here. And something to give yourself a little bit of leverage, like a simple wood wedge, but another flat bar can work well as well. You may find when you go to replace your wood panel that one of these parts is missing. I'll show you where that goes on the saw and what it does. It's not actually, it's a little spring clip, but it's actually not holding the panel in at all. It's just used for right to left alignment of the panel. Okay, let's go over to the saw and we'll show you the process. So I have done a little work ahead of time and actually gone ahead and started to remove this panel, remove the top part, and you can see that the panel will just pop right out here. If I'm actually looking to replace this panel here, it will be easier if this panel is out of the way. So you may want to remove an adjacent panel to give you a little bit of leverage at the panel that you're actually trying to replace. If your panel that you're trying to replace is right in the middle of the saw, you may not want to replace more than one adjacent panel, and you may just want to start right at the middle. But for now, we've got this one removed, and I'm going to remove this panel. And this process is the same no matter where your panel is on your saw, whether it's a small panel in the middle of a compact saw or it's one of the top panels of an evolution or a control. The process is all the same. So here we have the panel removed on the right-hand side of this machine, and you can see the spacer clip that I referred to earlier. And again, this clip is not holding the panel in any way. It's just setting the spacing so we get a nice space between the two panels. And that's all it really does. This panel, you'll notice also, is spaced differently from what I call the ribs on the panel to one edge versus the other. This is an end panel, yet it doesn't have a finished colored end on it because it goes up against the STRIEBIG sign here. But this panel can definitely only go in one way. If I tried to put it in this way, the rib lines up the spacer clip, and obviously it's not going in correctly. So this one, it's pretty obvious that it needs to go in this way, and now you see the spacer clip doing what it's supposed to do, is provide that spacing there. Okay, but now we've got this panel out, and we're going to go to work on removing this one. I want to be careful not to pry up, again, especially if I want to retain this panel. This is a perfectly good panel on a brand new machine, so I wouldn't normally be taking this out. But if it's in decent shape and I want to reuse it, I don't want to pry in the middle of a span between these two, because these are simple glue joints holding each of these strips onto the vertical ribs. and I can easily bend and break a glue joint here if I pry in the middle of a span. So I want to pry over the top of one of the ribs and just pry up on the back strip and pull out a little bit to get it started, and then move down to the next rib and go back and forth until that one starts to free up a little bit. And the process continues down the panel. And I may need to go back and forth a little bit. It does require a little bit of patience this is where I can sometimes use my other lever piece to start to inch out the panel. And there is my removed panel. Now again, this panel has the same profile on the top and the bottom, so actually this panel could go in the other way around and be perfectly fine here in the middle of the saw. So again, I just set my bottom edge on the aluminum profile, let the clips provide the spacing, and at that point we just snap it into place.